Teachers' days are filled with classroom management, constant decision-making, and a true desire to reach our students. In planning engaging lessons, the most important player is often forgotten: the brain. How does the brain learn? From tiny peptides to the wrinkly cortex, learning truly is all about communication. According to Eric Jensen in his book, Brain-Based Learning, processes are the workhorses of communication. Knowledge is transmitted to every single cell of the body. There are different parts of the brain that are responsible for the acquisition and storage of information. New sensory data enters through the body and travels to the thalamus. At this point, the information scatters throughout different parts of the brain. Visual information could end up at the occipital lobe, while language information will go to the temporal lobe. The raw sensory impression of incoming data is assessed to determine if there is a threat. If there is, information is shot to the amygdala, where the nervous system is triggered to deliver a quick response. If not, then it moves on. One place that new data may go after the thalamus is the frontal lobe. Here, the life expectancy of information is limited to 5 to 20 seconds before it is filtered and stored, or dismissed altogether. Filtered information that is stored needs to be either relevant, trivial, or compelling. If it is, it will travel to the hippocampus for a little campout. If the hippocampus camp decides that it's not important, the information will be dismissed. Processing of this information can take hours or days or even weeks. If the hippocampus camp does think that the information is still important, it will then arrive at the cortex. Data then arrives at the cortex, and then it can travel between there and the cerebellum. The interesting thing about the cerebellum is that there are 40 million nerve fibers, 40 times more than the optical tract. That's a lot of nerve fibers. Other interesting stuff about the cerebellum is that it loves to calculate, predict movements, thoughts, actions, you name it. It loves to be in charge of movement and learning. Must execute movement, must predict outcomes, must analyze variables, must set goals, must order information, must rehearse tasks before carrying them out. It is responsible for both gross motor and mental tasks. That's why it's so important to incorporate movement into all lessons, or at least throughout the school day. Now let's think of this at an even smaller cellular level. Electrical impulses that come from sensory data arrive at the axon. Neurotransmitters, these include glutamate, serotonin, dopamine, and adrenaline, then travel through the synaptic gap. They eventually arrive at the dendrite. From here, the neurotransmitters are released, absorbed, released, absorbed. Virtually, it's a ping-pong match between the dendrite and the axon. Neuromodulators like noradrenaline, cortisol, and estrogen tell the dendritic receptors how to respond to the information, whether to excite or inhibit the effect of neurotransmitters in question. So see there, it all comes down to the communication that happens at the cellular level, and even down to the food that they consume, the chains of proteins that store the data from every cell in the entire body, or the peptide.
Created using Powtoon.